5, apologies, leave of absence. Are there any apologies or leaves of absence for today's meetings? We have Councillor Scott Jeffrey noted as an apology. Disclosure, point 6, disclosure of conflicts of interest. Councillors, I will take all papers as being read. That being the case, are there any disclosures or conflicts of interest? Nil. Page 7, item 7, if we move to confirmation of minutes, decisions of the previous meeting. Councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is?
Sure.
Councillor Carlson.
Carlson, go ahead.
Sorry. Yep. Madam Mayor, I move that the motion that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 18th of February 2025 be confirmed as true and accurate record of the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Is there a seconder? Councillor Stevens. Is there any opposition? As there is no opposition, does any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Thank you, councillors. I now put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried. We now move to page 7, item 8. No.
Yeah.
Yes, I beg your pardon, sorry. Councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Oh, sorry, beg your pardon.
Purpose.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Are there any questions of clarification? But is that where I'm going?
Before we do the purpose, so we do have a petition.
Sorry, this is a little bit the wrong way around. I beg your pardon. We have a petition to present today, and the purpose of that petition is that
Sorry, hang on, where are we?
This one.
Yeah, that's it.
A petition has been received from Rainbow Local Government calling for the Strathbogie Shire Council to establish LGBTIQA+ Advisory Committee. Rainbow Local Government believe this action will make a positive difference for LGBTIQA+ people in the community and show that LGBTIQA+ people are valued, accepted and beloved community members. The petition reads, Turn Strathbogie Rainbow. The rest of it?
Yeah.
This is the entirety of the petition. It is time for Strathbogie Shire Council to join with other Victorian councils in establishing an LGBTIQA+ advisory committee. Why is this important? An LGBTIQA+ advisory committee provides an important way to hear the voices of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, queer and asexual people who live, study, work and recreate in Strathbogie Shire. We want to show Strathbogie Shire Council that residents and supporters expect them to support our LGBTIQA+ community. We need you to support the LGBTIQA+ community and sign the petition for Strathbogie Shire Council to establish an LGBTIQA+ advisory committee. The submission was signed by 35 members. Yes. Councillors, we now have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Binks.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. I'd like to move the recommendation that is printed on page 8 of our agenda that Council receive and note the petition in relation to Council establishing an LGBTIQA+ advisory committee, and 2, that the petition be referred to the Director of Community and Planning for consideration or report to Council by no later than September 2025.
Thank you, Councillor Binks. Is there a seconder? Councillor Stevens. Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, does any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Binks.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. I'd just like to thank the Rainbow Local Government and the community members that have signed this petition and brought it to Council. Many of them have been in touch with me and expressed the importance of such a committee. I explained to them the need for a perhaps longer response time with September 2025 being a report back to council, given the other items we need to get through with our council plan, budget and other things we have on our agenda, and they were understanding of that and are really excited to work with us going forward. So I'm encouraging my fellow councillors to support this first step, and I look forward to receiving the report from the appropriate director as to how we progress their request. Thank you.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion?
I think just as a second, Madam Mayor, just to say thank you to the community for bringing this to our attention, and Councillor Biggs has already informed them as to what our action is going to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, councillors. I now put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried. We move to page 9, item 9.1, the Mayor's report. Firstly, I would like to sincerely thank all emergency service providers, state authorities, and most importantly, the communities of Boho South and Marawini for their quick action, support and resilience during the Boho fires. A special shout out to all local fire brigades who have supported the firefighting efforts under the leadership of Forest Fire Management. Council continues to provide support to these communities whilst the fire continues to burn. What another busy day, but fabulous month for myself and my fellow councillors. It's been a frantic mix of business, as usual at council, completion of mandatory training for our councillors, and also attending some wonderful events that underpin the spirit and commitment of our communities. As part of council's obligation under the Local Government Act 2020, my fellow councillors and I completed the first stages of our mandatory training this month. This is the first stage in a progression of training over the next 4 years and supports and strengthens our commitment to the Model Council Code of Conduct introduced in 2024. Additionally, councils are in the thick of the development of the 2025-29 council plan, council vision, financial plan, asset plan, revenue and rating plan, and 2025 budget, all strategic documents required under the Act. I would like to thank the broader community for their valuable feedback so far, and would like to thank those who have formed our community working group who will help inform these key strategic documents and provide council with recommendations on community priorities for the next 4 years. Council is also currently undertaking the preparation of 2 key land strategies, the Rural Residential Land Use Strategy and Urban Growth Strategy. The overarching aim of the Rural Residential Land Use Strategy is to ensure council has formal and strategic justification to direct and allow rural residential development in areas that minimise impacts and provides protection to productive agricultural land and other associated non-residential uses. That is a long sentence. The Urban Growth Strategy will provide strategic guidance to assist decision-making on areas of potential future residential expansion and any potential rezoning. This will be done in a coordinated municipal-wide approach rather than taking a township-by-township approach. A 4-stage community engagement approach to inform the development of both strategies is underway. A community panel was established to provide feedback on those important documents. I was privileged to welcome the participants of the community panel to acknowledge the important contribution and feedback they are making in this important area of council operations. It's been a busy month for community events as well, and I have attended several events during the month. Strathbogie Shire Council conducted 3 free workshops with renowned psychologist and youth mental health expert, Dr. Michael Carr-Gregg, designed to empower parents and professionals with strategies to support young people in overcoming life's challenges. I attended the workshop held at Ngambie Mechanics Institute, which is well attended by our community. This month, they have seen a focus on International Women's Day, and Strathbogie Shire Council is proud to have hosted several events which I participated in. As Mayor, I'm immensely proud to lead a council comprising 4 female and 3 male councillors, reflecting a gender ratio that surpasses the state average. In the 2024 local government elections, women constituted just over 43% of elected councillors in Victoria, falling short of the state's 50% target for 2025. Our council not only exceeds this average, but also benefits from a workforce where women represent half of our employees, aligning with the broader trend in Victoria local governments. On the 7th of March, our International Women's Day event was held at Fowles Wines, Avenel. An exciting lineup of guest speakers included Alexandria Parker, a photographer and film director with 14 years of experience working across Australia and internationally, Tegan Kleinsdale, a Fowles winemaker who has been shaping the wines since 2008, and Annabelle Cleland MP, member for Euroa, represents an electorate spanning 12,000 square kilometres and is someone who understands the challenges of balancing a young family with a career. I also joined council staff who celebrated International Women's Day on Thursday. Our guest speaker was Dr. Nikki Vincent, Public Sector Gender Equality Commissioner, who gave an informative speech and graciously fielded questions from the staff in attendance. I was especially thrilled to be invited to unveil the Women in War commemorative plaque at the Violet Town RSL, honouring women in wartime. It symbolically represents all those Australian women who served in the military or supported Australia's and allied military forces. Designed and constructed by the Violet Town RSL sub-branch members, the mostly black and white mural is 17 metres long and covers the period from the Anglo-Boer War to the present. It allows the Violet Town RSL to commemorate the 20 or so local women who have done their bit, but in a wider and much longer context. Let's hope the mural will help inspire the next generation of women in the military. In late February, Strathbogie Shire was a proud sponsor of Longwood for the Love of Ale Festival. This festival showcases local and regional businesses. The festival is a true community fundraising event with proceeds from the day going towards the new female-friendly amenities building at the Longwood Recreation Reserve. This month, Council began construction of this modular facility with the support of funding from Sport and Recreation Victoria. Last Friday, councillors and council staff took part in the Wawa Big Tangarang cultural experience hosted by Vander Horn, Uncle Shane Monk and Bonnie Kavanagh. This was a magnificent morning and an opportunity to gain a deeper understanding of Aboriginal history and practices. And finally, a huge thank you to all our amazing friends of the pool volunteers who gave up their own time to make this pool season great. I'm now going to move to page 9, item 9.2, councillor reports. Does any councillor have a report? Councillor Binks.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. I too was really thrilled to join with fellow councillors, the CEO and key staff on Friday the 7th of March in the Wawa Big Wawa Euroa tour. Wawa Big is the tourism arm of the Tangarang Land and Waters Council, and I want to thank Tangarang Elder Uncle Shane Monk and proud Tangarang woman Bonnie Kavanagh for guiding us on the cultural tour around the grounds of the Euroa Arboretum. Uncle Shane shared his deep knowledge of bush tucker and how Tangarang people thrived on this country for over 60,000 years. Thanks to their incredible partnership between the Euroa Arboretum and the Tangarang community, we were able to try some of the plant-based foods that are found in Tangarang diets. It was also incredible to try on a possum skin cloak and feel the warmth and comfort of these culturally significant items. Bonnie shared the organisation's goals in furthering the connections and respect between First Nations people and non-First Nations people. Bonnie emphasised the importance that we as leaders in our community have in sharing positive stories and successful partnerships with First Nations people and organisations. I look forward to continuing to work with the Tangarang Land and Waters Council over this term and furthering our collaborative working partnership. And looking forward, this Saturday, March the 22nd, the Strathbogie Memorial Hall are having a concert to celebrate the upgrades to the stage and hall that Council have assisted the Strathbogie Hall Committee with. Afrobiotics will be headlining the event with Uptown Brown providing support. I really encourage community to jump online and book your tickets to what will be a fabulous evening of community celebration and live music. And then on Sunday, the 13th of April, I'll be joining in the celebrations of the reopening of the Euroa Miniature Railway, which will form a part of a broader Explore Euroa Day of activities. And I encourage everyone to keep an eye out for further information relating to this exciting day in our community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Binks. Does any other councillor have a report? No? We now move to page 9, item 10, public questions. CEO Tamlin, are there any questions from the public?
Yes, Mayor, we have a submitter today with 2 questions from Mr. Robin Weatherald. So, question 1, sorry, get my notes right here. Question 1 reads, the current survey conducted on behalf of the Shire of Strathbogie has a basic fault. So the survey being is the survey that gets undertaken by JWS Research to get a a perception of what residents think of council's performance. So I'll continue. The fault being, the duration of the question is about the term of the administrator. And unfortunately, the questionnaire does not make this clear, and it appears that the question relates to the current council and the Shire's performance, which I believe is misleading. Will council take action to inform its customers on the current council involvement? Thank you for your question, Robin. I believe that your question is, as I mentioned, in relation to the annual local government community satisfaction survey that is underway across the Strathbogie municipality. This survey is conducted by, as I mentioned, at JWS Research, and it's undertaken via telephone. As the survey is an annual survey, and that's how it operates every year, it provides the council with information and an opportunity to benchmark results over time, comparing Strathbogie to other small rural councils to identify trends or areas for action. This survey results, once obtained, will be provided to the current councillor group, and then they can consider it from there. The second question relates to the state-of-the-art truck wash sale yards at Euroa. And Robin refers to it as the administrator constructed truck wash, but as I've discussed with Robin a number of times, this truck wash goes way back before the administrator stepped foot in the place and was well underway when the administrator got here. And I'll continue, has several basic faults and problems. The wash angle is insufficient to allow clearance of waste material from the truck using the washer. The drainage from the wash sump to the main drain tank is too small for the job. The pump used to do small and inefficient. Sorry, the pump used is too small and inefficient for the required washing task. The design fault allows fluids to escape into the street drainage. Will the expected new costs exceed $1 million investment? Thank you, Robin, for your question again. As per the investigation is underway at this point, I'm unable to provide a precise cost or estimate for any additional works that may be identified. Thank you for your questions. That concludes our questions, Mayor.
Thank you, Sarah Tamlin. I now go to item 11, officer reports. Do we have any officer reports? No. We now go to
Sorry.
We do.
Reports is 11.1.1.
these ones, yeah.
Yeah.
We now move to 11.1.1, planning applications received and planning application determined, 1st of February 2025 to 28th February 2025. Purpose of this report is to report to council with information on the current planning application activity and matters considered under delegation. Councillors, do we have any questions of the officers? No? We have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is, Councillor Stevens?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My motion is that council, number one, receive the report, and secondly, second dot point, note that there were 9 new planning applications received. 1 was withdrawn, and 6 planning applications decided on during the period of the 1st of February to the 28th of February 2025.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Halsall.
Just we would. Are you moving the recommendation or as you just read, because it was different slightly?
What did I read wrongly?
There was said things in there about. You didn't say the one with withdrawn and 6 applications. You used different words, but you said the same thing. So
I'm happy to read it again. I'll try it again.
Yeah.
All right. The council, point 1, receive the report. Point 2, note there were 9 new planning applications received, 1 withdrawn application and 6 planning applications decided on from the 1st of February to the 28th of February 2025.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens.
Thank you.
Councillor Halsall, are you happy to second again?
Yeah.
Yep. Would anyone like to, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just very briefly, please. I think it's really important we speak about the development and the growth of our Shire on a regular basis. And these types of reports, I think, are really interesting to the community if they want to know how we're sort of growing. So very, very quickly, I'll just give a rundown on the locations that are actually having applications come before us, because it's not concentrated to one area. There's applications in Longwood, Crichtons Creek, Mangalore, Tabilk, Avenel, Nagambie, Strathbogie and Kunda. Planning permit activity reporting applications have been issued in Euroa, Strathbogie, Goulburn Weir, Ruffy, Roo and other locations. So I think it's just important to let the community know that these applications come from far and wide within our shire. The other thing I'd just like to quickly speak to is we have 2 VCAT appeals. One is yet to be heard in April 2025. That's for 82 Kerwins Bridge Road, Kerwins Bridge, which is one of great interest to the community. And the other one has actually been resolved, and that was in relation to 222 Faithful Road, Longwood East. So we are still active in VCAT and one has been completed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Councillor Hassel, do you wish to speak to it as a seconder? No. Councillors, we have a motion. Sorry, just bear with me.
Yep.
I'm not doing this.
Isn't it?
I now put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried. If we can move to page 16, we now move to item 11.2.1 volunteer policy. The purpose of this report is to adopt the Strathbogie Shire Council volunteer policy. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification before we proceed? Councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please? And can you please state what your motion is? Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that Council 1 adopt the Strathbogie Shire Council volunteer policy. 2, place the updated policy on Council's website along with the publication of a notice in Councillor Squigley's newspaper column and social media pages about the adoption of the policy. And 3, note that the policy is scheduled to be reviewed in 12 months and may change at any time subject to a council resolution.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Hassel. Councillor Carlson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I've spoken before in this chamber about the importance of volunteers in our community, which we punch above our weight in terms of participation. And this particular policy applies to the volunteers that are working in council facilities. And it's very important that people who do volunteer have a clear understanding of what the environment in which they're going to work and volunteer. And these policies outline this in a very clear and transparent way. It only covers the 3 areas of, and I'll have to screen down, there's the cinema, 2 visitor information centres, and I think also the youth groups. Mm-hmm. These people contribute an enormous amount to the well-being of our community. And really, they are being acknowledged. I understand that the National Volunteer Week is coming up on May the 19th to the 25th, and as they should be. And this policy is an important structural policy for people who wish to volunteer in any capacity, really, and to understand what their opportunities are. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Councillor Hassel, do you wish to speak to the motion as a seconder? No. Would anyone else like to speak? Any other councillors? Councillor Stevens.
Just very quickly, if I may. It's been mentioned many, many times that the volunteers are the backbone of this community, and it's fabulous to have a formal recognition of that and plans and documents that clearly put in place supports and rules and regulations so that everything works in a very positive way. It was touched on the Nagambie Euroa Visitor Information Centre, the Euroa Cinema and the youth programs, but it actually goes beyond that as well. And we realise that there are sort of formal arrangements with our volunteers. There are a lot of informal arrangements. And the Mayor even touched on one earlier in your report where you spoke to the volunteers that assist with our pools. So there are many people out there that we would not be able to do the things we do if they weren't beside us, and we really appreciate them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? No, sorry, we've done that. Sorry. Thank you, councillors. I now put the motion for the vote. Those in favour? Carried. The motion is carried. We move to page 28, which is 11.3.1. All right, bear with me. Okay, 11.3.1, contract 24-25-22, construction of curb and channel and stormwater works at 1-3 Kennedy Street, Euroa. The purpose of this report is to note the outcome of the tender assessment process and award the tender for contract number 24-25-22, construction of curb and channel and stormwater works at 1-3 Kennedy Street, Euroa. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification before we proceed? Councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Carson.
Also move the recommendation as listed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Carson. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Holloway. Councillor Carson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just a few brief comments. These works are important. I mean, there's obviously an updated, it's an increased capacity of what is a localised problem, and this work never ends. These sorts of projects are an ongoing aspect of council, the function of council, and given the number of the size of the number with the dollar sign in front of it, I think indicates to the community just what the challenge is in terms of keeping and improving the infrastructure and upgrading the infrastructure that we're responsible for. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carson. Councillor Holloway, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, I was pleased to note that it appears to be a robust tender process that was undertaken with, I believe it's 9 tenders received with a range of prices where the most expensive was nearly double the cheapest. So I would put it that we are getting good value having undergone this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carson. Holloway, beg your pardon. Thank you, councillors. If there's no one else that wishes to speak to the motion or no opposition, I will now put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? Carried. Moving to page 35, we move to item 11.4.1, council meeting start times feedback. The purpose of this report is to assess the responses to public consultation to permanently change the commencement time of council meeting from 6 p.m. to 4 p.m. Councillors, are there any questions of clarifications before we proceed? Councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Hassel. Thank you, Councillor Hassel. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Stevens. Councillor Hassel, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I need to say that moving the meetings to 4 o'clock is certainly proving to be convenient, and as we move into the winter months, it'll certainly be safer.
Thank you, Councillor Hassel. Councillor Stevens, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Councillor Helsel's covered it well.
Okay.
Thank you.
There's no other councillor that wishes to speak or no opposition. Oh, I beg your pardon. Sorry, Councillor Binks.
That's fine, Mayor Kennedy. I'd like to speak against the motion, just hearing from some residents in the past week with an item that came up where they would have preferred to have attended the council meeting, but given that our meetings are now occurring during business hours and they work full time, they were unable to make arrangements to attend. So I'm just conscious that whilst there are possibly benefits in terms of safety of both our attendees, councillors, council staff. We are also excluding some of our residents from participating in attending our meetings and presenting to us by having the meetings happen during work hours or typical work hours. I hope that in the future we can enable further participation in our meetings. I know that we do have them streaming online, and I have reminded community that they can tune into our meetings online. In fact, I reminded them up in Violet Town as well about that recently, that it is a great way if you can't get here in person. It's not always possible to travel that distance, but if you can get the time off work, if you are working and tune in online, you can always present to us online as well. If you can't join us in the chamber is an option. So I think we just need to be cognizant of the potential exclusion of some of our residents with this change. And I look forward to seeing, you know, how this progresses over these, the remainder of the meetings that have been scheduled for 2025, but possibly looking at what that might look like going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Biggs. Excuse me for one moment.
Yeah.
Councillors, would anyone else like to speak for the motion? Councillor Holloway.
I would just like to note that in response to Councillor Binks's comments, all formal community feedback received was in support of the 4 p.m. time going forward. So we can only go on the feedback we receive.
Thank you, Councillor Holloway. Are there any more speakers? Councillor Binks, would you like to exercise a right of reply?
No.
Oh, no.
No.
Oh,
The mover.
sorry, beg your pardon. Councillor Halsall, would you like to exercise a right of reply? And just be honest.
That's it.
No? Okay. Thank you, councillors. I now put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried. Those against, I'm not going to say though. Those against. Sorry. Okay. We're moving to page 39, Councillor Confidentiality Policy. The purpose of this report is to adopt the Councillor Confidentiality Policy. Councillors, are there any questions or clarifications before we proceed? No? Councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Binks.
Thank you, Mayor Hewitt-Kennedy. I'd like to move the motion as it's written in the recommendation on page 39 of our agenda, please.
Thank you, Councillor Binks. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Carlson. Councillor Binks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Certainly, Mayor Hewitt-Kennedy. Confidentiality is critical for councillors, and I'm really excited to see a policy that deals with this specifically. I think it is a really critical part of our suite of governance improvements that have come along with the changes to the Local Government Act 2020, which came into effect last year. And I think that having a policy like this, it's part of these model council code of conduct and model policies that have been recommended by Local Government Victoria, and that it will ensure that we're all aware of our requirements around confidentiality, and there won't be any sort of errors or potential breaches of the Local Government Act, which is a really significant thing and can have really big impacts, as we have seen here in Strathbogie. So I'm really thrilled to see this policy, and I commend it to my fellow councillors, and that we uphold and adhere to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Biggs. Councillor Carlson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a few comments. This is basically a pretty much standardised policy, which is being adopted across the wide spectrum of the industry. I've never been a big fan of confidentiality, but of course I realise that it is absolutely necessary in the circumstances in which we operate. We do deal with a lot of issues that, regrettably, for the councils to be able to exercise their duties, confidentiality is required. Otherwise, the integrity of the council and the decision-making process would be compromised. But so that's why I support this policy. It's it's necessity. It's one of the key operational principles on which this council chamber will operate.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Stevens.
Thank you. I'd just like to add that this is one of many documents that sort of sit beside each other. It's aligned with the following legislation of council policies and key strategic documents. We have the Local Government Act 2020, we have the Privacy and Data Protection Act 2014, we have the Health Records Act 2001, and we have the Model Councillor Code of Conduct, which has already been referenced. So it's not sitting in isolation, and it is something that's been brought about because of the review of the Act. I think it's important, though, that people realise it's not a case of gagging, it's not a case of playing secret squirrels or withholding information from the community that they may legitimately be able to access. This is about the stuff that they legitimately can't access. But I think speaking to transparency, in the interest of transparency and open and honest communication with our community, this report's going to be presented at this meeting, a public council meeting. This policy is intended to set out the principles on which the policy is based and allay concerns that it can be used as a wide-ranging policy that's contrary to public transparency principles. A couple of sections in particular need to be highlighted. Section 4.1 highlights the overarching governance principle relating to public transparency. So we do have to be transparent in what we do. Section 4.2 makes a statement about the importance of transparency, but points out that there are situations where transparency can be limited. Section 4.3, 4.4 and 4.5 identify 4 legislative provisions that describe circumstances where public access to council information can be restricted. 2 from the Local Government Act 2020 and from the Privacy and Data Protection Act 2014, and 1 actually from the Health Records Act 2001. So it's a matter of meeting our legislative responsibilities and balancing what needs to be kept in confidence as opposed to what needs to be shared with the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? Councillor Hudson.
I'd just like to say that if there was any community members that wanted to read the policy in detail, you'd be able to find it on the website.
Thank you, Councillor Halsall. There's no other councillors that wish to speak or no objections or opposition, sorry. I will now put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried. We go to page 51. So the councillor, 11.4.2.1, councillor social media policy. The purpose of this report is to adopt the councillor social media policy. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification before we proceed? Councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Binks.
Thank you, Mayor Hewitt-Kennedy. I'd like to move the motion as is written in the recommendation on page 51 of the agenda, please.
Thank you, Councillor Binks. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Halsall. Councillor Binks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just briefly to say again, part of our governance updates and improvement in our governance and under the Local Government Act, these policies have come as recommended. So it provides that guidance and appropriate use of social media by councillors in the performance of the role of a councillor consistent with their obligations under the Model Councillor Code of Conduct, which we've all signed up to. And I think it's a really great policy that helps sort of identify how we engage with social media, seeing as we are councillors, and it is a tool to be used to our benefit and not to our detriment. But grateful to see it included. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Binks. Councillor Halsall, would you like to speak to the motion?
No.
Thank you, Councillor Halsall. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak to the motion? If there's no one else that wishes to speak or no objections, I'll now put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried. Move to page 63, item 11.4.3, S6, Instrument of Delegation to Members of Staff. The purpose of this report is to update changes to the S6 Instrument of Delegation due to organisation changes and specific legislation. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification before we proceed? Councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Binks. Oh, sorry, beg your pardon,
No.
Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mayor Hewitt-Kennedy. I would like to move the motion as is recommended on page 63 of our council papers today. Just checking it doesn't go over to page 64 because sometimes they do. So as is written in the recommendation on page 63. Thank you, Mayor Hewitt-Kennedy.
Thank you, Councillor Binks. Councillor Carlson, are you
No comment.
seconding?
Yeah, I'm seconding.
Yes,
No.
sorry.
No need to speak. It's operational.
Councillor Binks, would you like to speak to the motion?
As indicated by my fellow councillor, Councillor Carlson, this is a delegation, an instrument of delegation to members of staff. Without these delegations, we would not have a life. It's absolutely critical that we pass on these delegations to those who are both skilled and professionals in this area, but also that have the capacity to perform these duties and functions under the instruments of delegation as is listed in here. And if you would like further information, you can find all those delegations listed in the agenda. So thank you, Mayor Hewitt-Kennedy.
Thank you, Councillor Binks. Councillor Carlson, you don't wish to speak. If no other council wishes to speak or there's no opposition, I will now put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Councillors, we now move to page 161, item 11.4.4, S11A, S and S11B, instruments of appointment and authorisation. Purpose of this report is to update changes to S11A, instrument of appointment and authorisation, Planning and Environment Act 1987, and the S11B, instrument of appointment and authorisation, Environment Protection Act 2017, due to organised changes and specific legislation. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification before we proceed? Councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Binks.
Thank you, Mayor Hewitt-Kennedy. I'd like to move the recommendation as is written, move the motion as is written in the recommendation on page 161 of the agenda this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Binks. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Stevens. Councillor Binks, would you like to speak to the motion?
This is sort of in unison with the one that came before it around those appointments of authorisation, instruments of appointment and authorisation, and again, critical to the functioning of our organisation.
Thank you, Councillor Binks. Councillor Stevens?
As read, thanks.
Thank you. If there's no other councillor that wishes to speak to the motion or no opposition, I will now put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? Carried. We move to page 170. Item 11.4.5, contracts, works, variations and grants awarded under Delegation 1, February 25 to the 28th of February 2025. The purpose of this report is to inform Council and the community of the status of the request for the public advertised tenders, invitation for written quotations and quotations provided using collaborative and or third-party contracts which have been awarded under delegation for the period the 1st of February 2025 to the 28th of February 2025. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification before we proceed? No. Councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Holloway.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move the motion as per the recommendation as listed on page 170 of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holloway. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Binks. Councillor Holloway, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you. This is just outlining what has happened with regards to contracts awarded. I would like to say it's all pro forma, but I would like to say how pleased I am to see item number 4, nil low value contract variations, pardon me, which is the way that we spend money that we didn't budget for. So very good to see nil in that respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holloway. Councillor Binks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just to note the quick response grants. I know these are really popular with our community, and it's proved a really great way to get that money out to community that is under $1,000 in a timely manner. So it's again one of those delegations that is given to the Chief Executive Officer of the Shire and can happen outside a council meeting cycle. And I believe it's been incredibly popular, possibly exhausted for this financial year, and great to see it being used by our community right across the Shire. And for this one in particular, it's looking at the battery-powered brush cutter to support the maintenance of walking tracks and trails, Strathbogie Tablelands, which is brilliant because it's really important for the health and wellbeing of our community that we have safe and exciting places to walk and explore. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Binks. No other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor, I will now put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried. We move to item on page 174, 11.4.6, record of informal meetings of councillors February 2025. The purpose of the report is to note the record of informal meetings of councillors held from 1st of February 2025 to 28th of February 2025. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification before we proceed? Councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Halsall.
Sure. I wish to move the motion as stated in the recommendation on page 174.
Thank you, Councillor Halsall. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Binks. Councillor Halsall, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Only to say that there is 4 independent records of informal meetings. As far as I can tell, every Tuesday is a full day. And there's been lots of other, I'd say, informal meetings that have taken place that aren't on this register. So it's certainly very active, that's for sure.
Thank you, Councillor Halsall. Councillor Binks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just to note that meeting of 4th February 2025 included guest speakers from, there's some acronyms in there, so we'll decode some of the acronyms. VLGA is the Victorian Local Government Association, LGI Local Government Inspectorate, and IBAC, I might get this one wrong, it's Independent
based anti-corruption commission.
Yeah, really important bodies that support council in good governance and the sort of, making sure we're doing our role properly and giving confidence to our community and stakeholders. So it was great to have those professionals come and present to us and help us understand our obligations, our roles, and also a really big push about them working with councils. And it's not just all about keeping us in line, but how they can work to grow us as a council group and have us be confident in those spaces. So it was a really beneficial session, and it's all there on the public record, which is brilliant, meets their requirements. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Binks. No other councillors wish to speak to the motion. On that basis, I will now put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried. If we go to page 180, 11.6, communication, engagement and advocacy, I note there's nil report. If we move to item 12, notice of motion, there are none. Item 13, notice of rescission, none. Item 14, urgent business, nil. Item 15, confidential, nil. Next meeting, the next ordinary meeting of Strathbogie Shire Council is scheduled to be held on the 15th of April 2025 at the Euroa Community Conference Centre, commencing at 4 p.m. There being no further business, the meeting is closed at 4:51 p.m. Thank you.